Hey, everybody. Welcome to the October 18th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting. I now call this meeting to order. And I would like to invite everybody to stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so on to the consent agenda. Does any member of the board have any items regarding the consent agenda they'd like to bring forth for discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda for the October meeting.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. All right, as part of the year-long Celebrate Sherwood Schools initiative, each school will have an assigned month during the year where we will focus on that school. October is Celebrate Sherwood High School month. And as part of that, Principal Adam Mitchell will share some information and highlights about the great things happening at Sherwood High School this year. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Principal Mitchell to the podium.
All right. Vice Chair Thorne, Superintendent Lyon, Board of Directors, Sherwood staff, thank you very much for having me here today. We were just here last month and sharing some of the great things that have been going on in the first few weeks in the first month. And so, well, I may touch on a few of those things and repeat a few of those things because they're so wonderful. This presentation is a little bit more about Sherwood High School as a whole and all the wonderful things that go on throughout the year and how we're adjusting and adapting and continuing to try to do great things for kids. A little bit about the school, just so everybody has the same knowledge. We have a little bit over 1,700 students that go to our school, 140 staff. That includes about 75 teachers, quite a few more licensed staff that do various roles, administrators, deans, classified staff, custodians, kitchen staff, just a wide variety of people that come through our front door. So it totals up each day with parents and coaches and all of those to about 2,000 people that walk through our door every day. And so it's a small city that frankly, we're really proud of. The one thing that constantly gets the attention, and rightfully so, is our graduation rate. And we have been, as far back as I have had the time to look, we've been above 95%, which puts us in the very top of the state of Oregon, and frankly, tops across the nation. That is almost an unheard of number. It puts us well above the state average. And so that is something that we pride ourselves on a lot. And what I think the thing to celebrate the most is how we get there. We are very fortunate to have, that I'll talk about a little bit more. We have an amazing staff. We have an amazing community. We have an amazing group of people here, and parents and everybody who support their kids. And so getting kids to graduation in Sherwood is not the challenge. Getting kids to graduate, being prepared for what they're going to do next is the challenge. And that's the hard work, and that's the fun work. And that's what we really take pride in. In order to do that, we have a very rigorous and varied course offerings in our school. We have robust selective programs and pathways with 7 pathways, and we awarded 4,000 more than 4,000 college credits last year, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more because that's way more nuanced than it sounds, just a big giant number. We have 10 advanced placement courses at our school and numerous co-curricular activities, which some of the highlights are our theater program, which performs at least 3 shows per year. We have a highly competitive performing arts program, marching band, jazz band, wind ensemble, color guard, winter percussion. Our a cappella and large choir groups are amazing and perform well in their competitions. We have 28 OSA athletic teams, which does include, that's also blanketed around marching band, choir, cheer, and dance are also included in those. I think that's been a piece that those get separated out, but really they are all under the OSA umbrella. They compete along with our football, baseball, basketball, all of those. And so that's something we really take pride in. And then we have over 50 active clubs, and those change throughout the year. We get new club requests. We get clubs that don't continue after some kids have left. But having a flexible program with that to really meet students' needs and desires is something we really take pride in. Speaking of things we take pride in, I really wanted to identify 3 different things. And one of them I highlighted last time I was up here, and that's our shared leadership. That's something we continue to grow. I'll just kind of go back to that real quick to explain. We've really expanded our leadership team and increased the number of teacher leadership opportunities. And that really enhances our culture. We actually just returned from touring a school in Illinois, and that was something that they have a high retention rate, enormous retention rate. And when we really talked about it and thought about how do we get our school to that place, having opportunities for teachers to become leaders and grow within the school and not need to look elsewhere and look outside of Sherwood is a huge piece of that. And so improving that is not only great for our students, that's what in the end, that's what it's all about, is improving student outcomes. And one of the ways to do that is to give teachers that sense of belonging and ownership and community. And so growing that has been a real highlight of ours. Some of the pieces that has resulted in is a large improvement in collaboration amongst our teams and departments and all of those things, with, as I mentioned last time, a school-wide focus on increasing attendance, and our leadership team really taking the reins on that. And I wanted to come back to that because the stats from last week are beyond impressive. When we looked at last year's data, it starts high, goes down a little bit as people get a little more comfortable in the cold, all the colds and the flus and those things start up. And then in week 8, which was last week, there was this dramatic cliff. I mean, that's truly the best way to describe it. And it dropped, I think, almost 10% last year in 1 week. This year, we ended up in that same week, 7% higher than last year's number. And in fact, higher than the week previous. And so getting into this part of the year and growing your attendance rate, not just keeping it at a reasonable level, but growing it is a big step and a big accomplishment for us. And so the fact that we did not fall off that cliff with our attendance means our kids are there, they're engaged, they're excited, and they're going to be more successful the more they're at school. And so I just wanted to circle back to that because we're very proud of that. And I know it's 1 week, but the hard work that's gone into it and all these little pieces is just, again, it's something to celebrate. The next thing is, the best way I could word it is kind of adjustment to our practices to best support students. Sherwood High School has a long history of success. We talked about that with our graduation rate. And what I'm proud of, and our admin team and our school, is continuing to adapt and change, even though we're really good. And that takes a lot. That takes a focus, that takes a desire to want to do that. And so some of the things that have helped that are, last year we implemented our flex time, which is a targeted intervention time for intervention and extension for students built into our school day. That was a big change for us, and change can be hard, even when you know that it's the right thing to do. And so our staff and our community taking that on and putting that in for our kids was a giant step in the right direction. The next thing is looking at our dual credit. And I think that in the past, we have awarded more dual credit. And some of you are probably sitting there thinking, well, why would you want to go down? And the answer is, when you get into it, having a large amount of dual college credits on your transcript that don't attach themselves to anything is actually not good for a student going to college when they're looking at financial aid and all of those kind of things. It actually hurts you. And so changing the model of our dual credit program to be focused on courses that students can use directly when they get to college. For example, writing 121 and writing 122, those directly transfer to a college. And that's a class that you now don't have to take when you get into the Oregon University system. When you have you get 4 college credits for taking a class and they go into your general electives. That's great, but you still have to take all of the writing classes and the math class and the economics and those kind of things. Economics is another one. We offer economics, and that's a direct benefit to our students. And so being more mindful about that and changing that practice to really further benefit our students and not put them in a position that we actually kind of found out on the back end was hurting them a little bit, making that philosophical change and reducing the number, but having the outcome be higher. We're really proud of that because it's getting our kids going the right direction. And then I think the last thing is just a culture of success. And this builds on what I was talking about, where we are very successful. We're a very good school, and wanting to continue to get better is, like I said, it's hard to do sometimes. It's easy to rest on your laurels, and that's not our school. And that's something to really celebrate as well. The constantly high graduation rate, and then aligning practices and support for kids to help them be successful in whatever they may choose is another change that we've made along this to build that culture of success. When kids have left schools, they get to graduation, and then they're simply prepared to be a high school graduate. And we want to really look at preparing them to be in college, whether it be a 4-year college or a 2-year college, moving to trade school, being in the military, providing those opportunities. So we don't define the finish line as the day of graduation. We define it as they're successful when they get into the next step of their life. And that takes a lot of work, because it's like I said, it's changing the finish line and changing the target, and being willing to do that when your target is already so strong is a real celebration of our staff. Another thing that we continue to work on is our fostering parent and caretaker involvement. And this at our school, again, it's one of those things that can be very easy to rest on, because we host 3,000 to 4,000 people for a football game. We have hundreds of people that come to a basketball game. We have 597 to be exact that come to every theater performance 3 nights through a week, 3 times a year. So it's easy to just assume that people are going to show up, but to do that intentionally is difficult and pays off quite a bit. And we start with our kids before their freshman year. We find multiple opportunities to go down to the middle school and work with them. They are a fantastic partner in wanting to help us prepare their students, working with us adult to adult, adult to kids, being part of that process. And that really pays off. Our kids, the more opportunities we built in, the more our kids come in prepared and ready to be successful at the high school. And I've noticed that especially this year. I feel like our freshmen I don't feel the nervousness or the concern about how to do high school. We are doing the right things to get them prepared. There's always questions, there's always things that come up, but they're more prepared this year than they were last year. And those kids were more prepared than the year before. And so doing that has been really helpful. We also try to create many different opportunities for parents to come in and be part of our school community. And that looks at different opportunities, different times of the day, just trying to make something available for everybody so they can connect. A few of those to highlight our open houses that we have, our conferences. We do a night for CTE each year. That's been a little difficult in our, coming through the pandemic, but coming out of that. We had our trades fair last year and building on that this year. We had a parent partnership night, our first ever, and it was quite a success. And so looking forward to that continuing. There's quite a few events for juniors and seniors as they plan towards college and different pieces that they're going to move out to into the world. In fact, last week we had in our recent memory, our largest senior FAFSA night that as far as attendance that we can remember. We have many, as I talked about, many school events, theater, performing arts, athletics, activities, all of those. We have our PSO and site council that parents can be a part of. We have band and athletic booster organizations. So there's things for everybody. And that's something we're going to continue to build on to have people be involved, because the more people are involved, the better our kids are going to be. And the last thing I want to talk about is a success story with one of our students. And this is actually kind of difficult because it's kind of hard to pick somebody sometimes and think about a certain story, because I'll go back to the thing I've said a million times. Our kids are very successful. And so really thinking about what stands out, and what stood out to me was a student who I never want to discount what they do for themselves. They are successful because of themselves. And I want to make sure that that's up front. And as we talk through with this student, they are successful because they choose to be successful every single day. And the community that rallied around them in this situation was just beyond impressive. Student had a parent pass away last spring, and the number of people that contacted us and the student was unbelievable. And I know I'm missing some, but the people that I can think of, and when I've talked with people, different additional students, teachers, counselors, administrators, classified staff, coaches, athletic boosters, community foundations, and many more. And that's, again, just part of the people who reached out to support this student. And they supported them with emotional support, financial support, bringing them to the school and being more involved in the school and continuing to check in. It's still a student that is checked in on a regular basis, because that's a difficult thing. And our community I'm very proud of what they've done. That student is, to this day, was involved before, but is probably one of our absolute most involved students, both during the day and all the things that they do, as well as after school, on the weekends, all of those. And so being able to have a community for a student who suffers something like that and is in a traumatic event, and be able to have a place that is a place that they turn to for support and comfort, that says a lot about Sherwood High School. Again, that's an extreme example, but that happens every single day. And that's what people do with our students, for our students. And I think of all the things, that's what is celebrated the most at Sherwood High School: the support for students, for each other, the adults, the community, the families, all of those. And so thank you for allowing us to celebrate our school. We're incredibly proud, and we do a great job, and we're going to continue to build on that. And that's the hard part, and that's the fun part, and we're looking forward to it. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for that presentation. It's always great to hear about the great things that are going on in our schools. I especially I got really excited last year when we had the trade fair start up again, or start up here. I don't know if we had it before. No. So it started up for the first time last year, which was great. Because when we're talking about supporting students and where they go next and setting them up for success, that's such a huge component. I remember going to school, and it was like we were taught the end after high school, it was college. There was no other option. And that's just kind of how we grew up thinking. And while that's a great goal for many, that's just not the path that many can take. And so I love that as a district, we are supporting all students in that way. We emphasize how Sherwood is a great place for all students. And that certainly is a big reflection on that. I love, again, all of our course offerings. We are really great with our course offerings. We have so many to offer. And just hearing the story also about this student is a testament to this community. And it's actually living proof that when somebody feels supported and somebody feels rallied behind, like people have their back, they're going to end up paying that forward a million ways. The things that taught that student for the rest of that student's life are going to carry through. And that's just very meaningful. So thank you for that presentation. Does anybody else have anything you want to add? Oh, okay. Well, thank you. So let's see here. We will now go. Oh, right. We're going to go on to our reports. I'm just getting the hang of this, you guys. So on to our reports. We're going to start with Superintendent Lyon, Dr. Lyon.
Thank you. So good job, Adam. Adam had the pleasure of kind of kicking off the month-by-month cadence of celebrating Sherwood schools, and you've done a great job. And it's really kind of what we envision this year is to tell a lot of the success stories that we have, and there is so much to be proud of at Sherwood High School. It's an amazing environment, and every time I'm there, I'm just further impressed this year about the positive environment and the energy in the school, the positive energy. We did hold a parent partnership night, kind of field tested the first one of those. And, you know, what we learned was that we want to continue to offer at the secondary level lots of opportunities to learn about standards-based grading and how parents and students interface with the technology offerings that we have that kind of create the platform for understanding how that daily life in class is going. And so we're learning about that. We want to continue that. We've pushed out some videos that our teaching and learning team made regarding standards-based grading, and those have been very well received. One of the things that happened this year, and it absolutely was a reflection of the pandemic, was our athletic booster club dipped. And for Sherwood, that was very unusual because the reputation of the Sherwood extracurricular program in the state of Oregon, if not the nation, is absolutely right at the top. It gets real when you play the Bowman. So anyway, the Booster Club held an auction for the first time in person since the pandemic. And there were 140 people there who were very generous in their support, very much interested in supporting our student athletes. Our band program has the same thing going on the fine arts side. So we're really kind of kicking it into all of those things that have existed that we've been trying to rebuild. They are being rebuilt, and they are being very successful. And the last thing, I just want to say kudos to the principals who have been running a lot of safety drills, lockdown drills, and our teachers and our staff at our schools really have this down. I saw it firsthand today, and they do a really, really good job. Officer Newman was there at the school I was in today. We did every piece that we were supposed to do, and we debriefed after, and with the exception of one classroom, we did a fantastic job. And that was just kind of a deal where the shades were not right. So that was kind of a mechanical error on that one. So anyway, hats off to everyone. It's been a great week. Thank you.
I think if the only hiccup was shades not being right, we're doing it right. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Lyon. And now we will hear from our ASB representative, Sabrina. Welcome, Sabrina.
Hi, thank you. Vice Chair Thorne, Superintendent Lyon, and Board of Directors, thank you for having me here today. I have a lot again this month, so I'm just going to get going. So our athletics have been doing really great this fall. As the fall sports end up ending their season, we're able to celebrate our seniors now, which we are very grateful for. I really want to highlight our football team because they are on their 6th shutout in a row, and they're looking for their 7th this week. And then also last week, our student section got 3rd place, which we will take considering it was a Thursday game. Admin's been working a lot on improving attendance and it's going really well. Numbers are up and kids seem to be enjoying coming to school. Our marching band has a halftime show performance tonight at 8:15 and it's open to the whole community. They also have a competition this Saturday at Sunset High School. We have our Sherwood Shorts performance on Thursday, November 16th, so we're looking forward to that. On the 10th, we had our fall blood drive and our Red Cross coordinator, Sienna Long, had crushed her goal and we collected 64 pints of blood. So hats off to her. Hold on. First weekend of November, our leadership class is heading down to the Oregon Association of Student Councils Fall Conference. And under the Sherwood Education Foundation grant, 24 students are able to go because it covers our conference fees. And also we want to spotlight our ASB awareness director, Annie Westover, as she was selected as a top 3 finalist for our OASC presidential candidate. So we're looking forward to cheer her on down there. Next week we have our club fair. We have 40 clubs participating in Club Rush, and that's the most I've seen since I've been at the high school. So super excited for that. And then the following week, we have our Cancer Awareness Week, and all funds that we are raising are getting donated to a Sherwood School District elementary student, and we are partnering with the Share Center to help make this happen. Some of our challenges at our assembly on the 30th will be a rap battle, a push-up competition with SRO Wolfer with a student, and a pie eating contest. SRO Wolfer will be doing a push-up competition against a student. And then also, lastly, Sherwood High School is selected again this year to decorate Dornbecker's Children's Hospital in December, and our Bowman pageant applications will go out in November, which we're very excited about. We are currently in contact with Kids Making Miracles to do a tour for our contestants, and we haven't been able to do this since before COVID, so we're very hopeful we can make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, so now we will go down the line with board reports. Director Thornton.
Thank you very much. I'll keep it kind of quick, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that I have been able to learn just by my time now in the district. And I, as a former teacher, I always had a great pride of what happened here in the district. But I never really saw much outside of the classroom or what happened outside of the educational kind of thing. So I've been able to now visit other parts of the district and see things that I didn't know how they operated. I went and saw the transportation department a couple of weeks ago and met with Sandy and her team. And I got to be honest, even as a teacher, I had no idea where the buses lived. I had, had no idea. So it's out off Cycle, but I think it's the thing that I am seeing as the more I get to see the underbelly of the district is that this pride in what the district does, it carries through all the departments. It really does. You can see it just when you like walk into the transportation department. I mean, I literally wasn't sure what to expect. A parking lot with a bunch of buses or something. I mean, they have that, of course, but it's more than that. Like they have an eating area out front with like these tables that were decorated by the Sherwood Plant Lovers group. I mean, how cool is that? You know, and they had the little Celebrate Sherwood logo on their wall in there, and there's a little, there's like a little shed that's painted like a bus. So I'm just giving you that. I mean, when you see that, when I immediately see things like that, that just tells me that the people that are working there have pride in what they're doing, and so that's what that tells me, and that's really cool. Sunny did walk me through all the other things they're doing to improve safety, improve signage and LEDs and all this kind of stuff. But I just wanted to share that environment. I thought that was really, really neat. And I had never seen it before. We also we got to do a tour of the food services, whatever that was, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And I think the student lunches that we're seeing today are so different than anything I ever experienced, even when I was a teacher. I mean, it used to be the joke, you get a hamburger, French fries, and your vegetable was ketchup, right? That was kind of like, it's not like that now. The food services department is really stepped up their game. I was impressed to find out that they are partnering with local places like Our Table here in Sherwood, which is really cool. And so I mean, honestly, as I walked around the cafeteria, I think the food that looked the healthiest and the tastiest that I would want to consume was not the ones that were coming from home. So it was literally the food that you could buy out of our cafeterias. It literally, the fresh vegetables, the fresh fruits. If I was a still teacher here in Sherwood, I would probably go down and buy hot lunch from time to time, at least when I had time to eat lunch. But it was really a cool thing to see. So I just wanted to share that because I think these are the stories that I think a lot of us as parents outside, we don't see this side of the district. And it's there, and it's a really neat thing. We should be proud of it all the way through. So that's it.
Thank you, Director Mueller.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Matt. That was a great recap. I just wanted to say one comment about Gia and the cafeteria tour. I, like Matt, I'm still learning. I've been only at this several months, and it's just been enlightening to see how complex, as Matt said, to get all the gears working together. One little gear breaks down, and hopefully not the print shop, as we know. One little gear breaks down and you're in trouble. But what I was impressed by at the high school, at least, was exactly what Matt said. But the team that's there, Julie, the master chef, these ladies are in it to win it. There was a woman who I sidebarred, and she said, I've been doing this 23 years in school lunch programs. This is the best I've ever seen it. I am so excited. It's great. So it's the teamwork, I think, that's impressive. And that echoes, I think, to Adam again. Been in the high school a number of times, and every time I go through that commons, I see these posters, again, 40 clubs, I guess. I see there's something for everyone. So we mentioned about inclusion, connectivity, the importance of feeling a home, quote unquote. And these schools have that environment now. There are challenges, of course, but those places are really a home away from home. And so it's a feeling, I think, after everything we've gone through, these tough times for 2 or 3 years, that there's a sense of calmness. There was at homecoming assembly at the high school, there's a sense that these people are having fun. There was a joyous vibe. The little parade in Old Town was just like the old days, the throwing the candy and the floats of the king and queen. And it was a beautiful day. It couldn't have been better. So I'm just really impressed with things so far and how things are developing to be a place where I think young students can really feel better about themselves and feel safer and pursue what they're after, Adam. And with the aid of everyone here that's guiding them, it's great. It's great. Thank you.
Okay, this is probably just going to piggyback a lot on what Mr. Mitchell said from the high school, but and as Han said, I've had the luxury of being able to experience like this environment of growing up in this district and being a part of clubs and teams. And so I know how special this town is, this district is, and I'm just glad that we're now able to offer so much more than even when I was in high school. And there really is truly something for everybody. And the vibe around the high school and the district is very positive and very inclusive. And I'm very happy to see that. It makes me happy. Homecoming, that was an interesting night based on the fact that we blew out the other team, which was wonderful. But what was even more amazing was piggybacking on the sense of community was kind of this tragedy of the Century player being hurt, and how our whole stadium and community just came together and rallied around this student and sent him off, with the 3 claps and, the announcer getting the whole stadium rallied around. And it was just great to see, because they made a comment that another player had been hurt in a previous game and the stadium was playing Miley Cyrus while that happened. And so they were just so grateful to us for kind of taking this student as kind of one of our own and sending him off to get the care he needed. So I was really proud of our community that night. And he's healthy and he's okay. So that's even better, obviously. I had the opportunity to attend the Booster Club auction this past Saturday with Dr. Lyon, and Chair Hawkins was there as well. I was able to get a hold of Katie Nordstrom, who is a big integral part of the Booster Club and getting that fundraising undertaking underway. And she let me know that they cleared $66,000 for that event. And that was a big improvement from last year. And it was a really great, fun evening. And a lot of people stepped up and really gave what they could, and it was great. Also, just to piggyback on how amazing our high school is, between now and November 11th, before our next meeting, the high school will be the OSAA final site location for 5A and 6A girls and boys soccer. So instead of going to Hillsborough Stadium, we get to showcase our fantastic facility in a state championship format, which OSAA is kind of gearing towards showcasing actual high school venues instead of using bigger stadiums if they can get away with it, because it saves money for one, which means they can give more back to the schools in the end when reimbursement time comes. But it highlights what we're doing in the state and the amazing facilities we have. So November 11th, go to Sherwood High School and watch some amazing state championship soccer. So, and that's it.
Thank you. I share the sentiment with pretty much everything that's been said here already, so I won't drag it on, except for to say, okay, kids, you are on notice with regards to lunches. No more complaining about school lunches. We've now all seen them. They are great. We would eat there ourselves. And so no more asking for door dashing at school. On to the information and discussion portion of the evening. I would like to bring up, oh, actually I'm skipping. We don't have any agenda related public comment. So I'll bring Marlene Cariff up to the podium to discuss our Division 22 assurances. We will cover non-agenda public comment at the end of the meeting.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Thorne, Dr. Lyon, and Board of Directors. Tonight, I'm going to share a little bit about the state requirement around Division 22 and our assurances, where we are in the process. All right. Let me start with the overview of what Division 22 standards are and why we have those, especially for our new board members. The name is pretty odd or abstract, and it can be confusing for people who maybe aren't as familiar with the administrative rules and how they're organized. But essentially, the rules are adopted by the State Board of Education, and they go into a chapter 581, which you see up there. And the division of that chapter is the 22. And so we call them Division 22, and then the rule and the definitions follow those. When rules are assigned to Division 22, they become part of Oregon standards for elementary and high schools. So that is a standard level of education that we're required to provide to students. Compliance with Division 22 standards essentially ensures that every single student across our state gets the same level of education at this base or this minimum. And these are not only standards that we must adhere to as Sherwood School District, but they're also monitored and they're tied to our state school funding. So it's really important that we follow these standards. Right. There are 50 different rules within Division 22 that we monitor throughout the year, and they essentially fall into one of these 4 categories. So they fall into teaching and learning, health and safety, district performance and accountability, and then human resources and staffing. Here's some examples of what some of the Division 22 rules look like and that you could be familiar with. But for example, we have required instructional minutes throughout this or hours throughout the state of Oregon that we have to have a minimum of instructional time. Our comprehensive school counseling program is a part of Division 22. Everything from like HR, where we're doing fingerprinting and background checks. Our teachers at our primary level, we have to have a certain amount of teachers who are trained in dyslexia. So those are some of the different examples of what falls under Division 22 and within those 50 rules. All right. So if you would like, there are a lot of different requirements that go with each rule. And instead of going through it up here piece by piece in the board documents, you are welcome to kind of click through those different links and kind of look if you want to pay attention to something in particular, make note of it, and you can go back and read it on one of those links. All right. This report here is called the Division 22 Standards Assurances. And it is a process where we really focus on state accountability and partnership with our local accountability. And so, you know, in Oregon, we have state control and we have local control, and it's kind of this balance between the two. And so this is the accountability process that we go through with the state. Some of the key things that districts have to be doing and holding up their end of the deal is we have to report to you all, our school board, on where we are with our Division 22s. Are we meeting them? Are we out of compliance? Are we on corrective action for some? And we have to do that by November 1st. And then we have to make our report available to the public as well. That report will live on our district website. And then the state also has to be accountable, that they have to hold up their part of the deal. And so they have to, we submit our assurances to them and they have to then review them. And they have to follow up with each district and create like a compliance plan with the district on any rule that we're out of compliance with. This is a really important process between the district and the state. Because one, it signals that school districts and ODE, Oregon Department of Education, that we really have a joint commitment to a high quality education experience for all of our students here in the state of Oregon. The Division 22 standards, like I mentioned before, they really articulate the floor of education being provided to students. So the absolute minimum, we can go beyond that, and we strive to do that with all of our programming. And then finally, the Division 22 standards outline the baseline expectations, and the assurance process offers an opportunity for school districts to not only demonstrate compliance, but also to reflect on areas of need or attention. And we get to do that in partnership with the state. So when you're out of compliance with something, this Oregon Department of Education does not come in a really heavy-handed way, but they try to mentor and coach a school district on getting back into compliance and working with the district on that problem-solving approach. And occasionally we are out of compliance. So what happens when the district is out of compliance? We go into a corrective action plan, and you'll see a little bit of that tonight. And we present our corrective action plan to the state of Oregon, and they work with us. They either approve it or they reject it, and we have to try again. If the plan's not as approved as submitted, ODE contacts us and they provide technical assistance, which is the try again part. Once the district does have an approved plan, ODE specialists, they sometimes provide coaching support along the way, a little bit of mentorship as needed. And then the corrective action plan must be completed by the beginning of the next school year. If we fail to come back into compliance after the opportunity of corrective action, that's when ODE will potentially withhold the state school fund or a portion of that from the district. We never want to get in that position. This report is for last year, not this year, because we don't know if we're in compliance this year, right? The year has not completed. So we would not be able to say we are in compliance for instructional minutes this year because we have not finished this year. So you always do a report for the previous year. All right. This year we did receive some waivers from the state of Oregon. Those include the first portion of Section 3 of the Assessment of Essential Skills Rule. These are the graduation requirements rules on essential skills testing. And this was waived for graduates beginning 2020, and the waiver is still in action right now. It is set to end in 2024. So this would be the last year unless the state decides that they're going to continue it. The other one that has been waived are we have to actually report out now through a data collection system to the state of our PE minutes, but not till next year. All right, we also have some new rules every year. So the first rule on this slide was a new requirement. The second was not a new requirement, but a new rule because the previous one was only temporary. So we have the agreements entered into with voluntary organizations. So we have to follow a new rule around that. And then we have the operational plans for the 22-23 school year. Again, that is not a new requirement, but it is now new in Division 22. All right, now I'm going to walk you through the things. We are in compliance with majority of all 50 rules. We're doing really well. And so I'll just take you through the areas that we're not in compliance with and the areas that we're on some corrective action plan for. So we are meeting in all instructional materials adoptions. Last year when I came to you, I reported that we were not in compliance with that, and we have now become compliant. And then we're meeting in the newly identified standards for tag identification and programming, our COVID management planning, and our agreement that we entered into with our voluntary organizations. Those were all new rules, and we're doing quite well. All right. You may remember that last year we had to take 3 furlough days. That really affected our instructional minutes for the school year, and we had to go into corrective action. For that, we had to ask for an extension from the state of Oregon on our corrective action plan towards instructional minutes. We anticipate that that we will not need that same corrective action this year. And once we get to the end of this school year and we have demonstrated that we have met all of our instructional hours, we will come into compliance. The other thing that we are on corrective action plan for is our grade level time requirement for PE minutes. Because this was last year, we were out of compliance in both K-5 and 6-8 with the shift in our master schedule at middle school. For this school year, we will be in compliance for that area. We are on corrective action for the K-5, and we are working this year to plan to get those 150 minutes a week so that next year in 25-26, we will be out of corrective action and we will have both of these requirements completed. Oh, I just shared that with you. I jumped ahead. All right. Again, this is our, I got really excited. Our corrective action plan and timeline for required instructional time. We'll be done with that by the end of this year. Okay, our corrective action plan and timeline for our healthy and safe schools plan. The district is in compliance for majority of this plan during the 22-23 school year. But it's really our work is around working with the Oregon Department of Education to adjust our water testing cycle. A very small component of this plan, but important. And we really anticipate that we will be able to get on a different water testing cycle that aligns with the water testing that we have completed. And we will be in compliance for this year. So next year, I should be able to report to you that we are in compliance for this one. All right. Looking ahead for 23-24, we have some new areas that we'll have to come into compliance with. So I mentioned this already, the areas that we're out of compliance, we really need to get our physical education minutes up. In addition to that, we have some new and revised rules around health services. So that will be added to Division 22. This rule in particular hasn't been revised since 1996, as you can see. And so there is just a lot of learning that's gone on since 1996 around health services. And so this will get our practices as a school district, will raise that bar a little bit. Okay, the School Board of Education, they can change the rules throughout the year. And so there are some things that are on their agenda that also we all should be aware of because they might affect us for reporting next year. One is the essential skills graduation requirement that's currently waived. There's a potential that that will be waived through the 27-28 school year. So we're watching that one closely. In addition to that, there is a potential that the Menstrual with Dignity for Students Act will be added to Division 22. That is a requirement for the state for us to follow, but it is not in the Division 22 currently. And so this would take that rule and make it a part of Division 22. So we would have to report out to our local school board, are we following it? And then submit whether or not we're following it to the state. So added accountability there. All right. And with that, do you have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
Can you just give me an example of what an essential skill that would be assessed if it ever did come back?
Yeah, so our students generally take the math, science, and language arts assessment their 11th grade year. And that would, in a world where essential skills had to be, that was a part of our compliance, that we had to meet the essential skills. Many of our students would meet essential skills through receiving a passing grade on those assessments. If they can't receive a passing grade on that, then we could create a portfolio of work. We could create performance assessments that are local, and then we would track those, and then we would account those as what they would earn to meet that essential skills requirement. So although we still have to do local performance assessments, which our teachers do every single day, and although we still are required to take the state test, it's not a requirement for graduation in its current state. So we're doing a lot of the work, but you don't need that in order to graduate high school currently.
Yeah, Marlene, thank you for your presentation. I enjoyed that. Two things. You mentioned these waivers.
Mhm.
Now, those waivers, are they statewide or only district?
State.
Statewide,
Yep,
okay.
the state gets to decide when we waive
So they will
rules.
waive that waives for the whole state.
Whole
Okay.
state.
I'm a little hung up on the PE thing.
Yes.
I understand the PE, but I'm doing some math. And PE is 2.5 hours a week in elementary school and 3.75 hours a week in middle school, if I'm calculating the minutes right. That's a lot of PE. I mean, I'm all for it, but that's a half hour a day in elementary school. So anyway, just pointing it out, it seems pretty excessive and I'm all for that. But then there's a mention here to just clarify. Later on, it says new and revised rules. PE for middle school went down to 150 minutes. So is it 150 or is it 225?
On the new and revised rules.
Yeah,
That part of the, let me get there.
reduced from 225 minutes every week of the year
Right.
to 150 minutes.
Yes, so
So we had 150 or 225.
we are currently right now at the 150 minutes per week. That's our goal there. But what happened with the PE at the middle school is there's been a few transitions. So it used to be that you had to teach middle school PE every single day. And now we can do it where we teach PE maybe 2 trimesters and then we teach health the other trimester, but with a 225, you really did have to teach it all year, every single day. And there was no getting around that. And that's really hard for any district who doesn't have more than one gym, doesn't have the space. And so that rule was revised.
Downward. Okay. And health is part of PE. You mentioned
Health
No.
is not going to count for these PE
Okay.
minutes.
So it's just a lot
no.
of PE.
Yes, it's just a lot of PE, and that is really important to our legislatures who pass those laws.
Well, I get it, but we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I see that there's links on here under the new revised rules and requirements for both the health services and the menstrual dignity. But for the health services, does that link contain what we're gonna have to do? And do you have any short, like, Cliff Notes version on what that is? Or is it better for us just to go look at that in detail?
So for the health services, the new and revised rules, we have not, so how that works is the rule is passed and it goes into Division 22 and districts are notified, but the technical guidance around what exactly the district has to do has not been released yet. And so we don't exactly know what we have to do. It's kind of like when I shared about the graduation requirement around the financial planning for high school students. We don't have that guidance yet. When we get the guidance, then we can start planning for the actual rule. But we have the law, but then it can change through the rulemaking process.
Okay,
And so
so more to come.
more to come. We have like a little
And
idea.
same with the menstrual dignity.
That one is, we know what that is because we already have to do that. That is like teaching about menstruation for biological female students and having access to menstruation products. That is a law that we have to follow, but we don't have to report on the law. And so once it goes into Division 22, we're accountable for it in a different way. It just raises that level of accountability. And that's the shift that's happening. Not that we don't have to still follow the law, but that we'll have to report to the state on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you, Marlene.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will invite Gary Bennett up to the podium to discuss our enrollment update.
Well, good evening, Chair Thorne and Board of Directors, Superintendent Lyon. Every fall, the fiscal team updates the board, probably need to move this a little closer, on enrollment for the year. And so tonight we'll do just that. Hoping. There we go. So we'll start by looking at some state and local trends, then we'll take a look at Sherwood, where we are right now, and then we'll take a look at what we've got coming up down in the future here. And so we'll start with the big picture. And many of you probably knew this data already, at least on some level, but Oregon's K-12 enrollment has been declining since the pandemic. You can see the biggest drop was between 2019-20 and 2021. You would anticipate that, but what I think most people don't understand is this continued to fall since then, K-12 across the state, and fall at a fairly steady rate. And it's worth noting that the percent change in the state from 2019-20 to 22-23 was about 5.37%. So that's across the whole state. It's actually a little more significant in our local districts. You can see these are all of our neighboring districts, all the districts that border us, and you can see they're all in the same range. Lake Oswego sort of being the exception. Sherwood sits right about in the middle, but outside of Lake Oswego, the other districts range between mid sixes to mid sevens, something in that range. I actually followed up with all the business managers from these districts just to find out what they were looking at this year. And just like I'm doing tonight, many of them will present to their boards. And so they weren't sharing specifics because this isn't public data yet and they want to share with their boards first. But all the districts that replied to me all reported generally continuing declines in their enrollment from last year to this year. This is just the same information graphically, but you can see that all of the districts are falling in some way. So really the one we really want to take a look at, I just skipped 3 slides in 1 second, is our actual enrollment versus our forecast enrollment. So we forecast a total of 4,709 students. That included a total of 62 district transfers from other districts. As of the 2nd of October, we sat at 4,634, so 75 students below our forecast. We'll talk in a minute about the financial impact of this, but it is worth knowing that just since this data was pulled, we're back up 10 more students, mostly at the elementary level, so that's good news. Our enrollment fluctuates kind of on an ongoing basis, and it bumped back up by 10 kids. So looking at the forecast is one thing. Another thing it's important to look at is where are we compared to last year at this time? And although we were down 59 as of the 2nd and down 49 as of now, a little better than 1%. This is a trend very much in line with what our neighboring districts are seeing. And this is not a Sherwood phenomenon. This seems to be an across the board phenomenon, at least in the districts that surround us. To really talk about the financial impact, we need to go back to this concept, which those of you who've been on the board for a while have seen. Those of you who are new to the board might not know this. We receive our funding based on what they call our average daily membership weighted, which is the number of students who attend our district, and then students in certain groups, such as students who are emerging bilinguals or in special education. We receive extra weighting for them, and all of that goes into a formula that gives us a total student count, and then we get funding based on that. The state has protections against declining enrollment in that we get the higher of 2 numbers. We either get our ADMW for this year, or what's called our ADM extended, which is our ADMW for last year. And so we'll be funded at the same level of students that we were last year. So that's good news for us because it really mitigates the financial impact for this school year. So I think the important thing about revenue is there's a fair bit to talk about on this page, more than is written down here. For this year, there should be no financial impact to us at all. The estimates of revenue that have been used in the financial forecast are based on last year's number, our ADM extended. So our revenue for this year should be in good shape. And in fact, I think there's a good shot that we actually end up with a little more revenue than we anticipated, because the state is currently forecasting more kids than there were in school for this year than there were last year. I think when it all shakes out, we're going to have fewer kids, but the size of that pie stays the same. But when it's divided among fewer kids, we'll get more money. So there is, I think, a chance that we'll come out even, for sure, even possibly even ahead on this, even though we lost kids for this year. Where we'll have to watch the financial impact is next year, because our funding for next year will be based on the higher of two numbers, either this year's enrollment or next year's enrollment. If enrollment is flat or declining, it could mean reductions in the state school fund of $700,000 to $800,000. But that doesn't account for the fact that if enrollment declines across the state, who knows how that shakes out? We'll have to watch that more carefully. I think that's a worst case number for us in that $700,000 to $800,000 range. I honestly think it'll be less than that, but I didn't want to report a number that was pie in the sky to you either. Another thing that will impact this is our number of special education students has been growing dramatically in the district, and has grown again this year. And students in special education bring with them some additional weighting and some additional funding. And so that will also impact our funding as well. And it's certainly impacting our special ed program and the student services program that serve them. So it is worth taking a look at some other information that I think brings a little bit of context to this. This slide comes from our demographers, and it's the most recent data that we have available to us. But what's interesting is it shows a couple things on this slide. Let's try the right button, Gary. There we go. This column here shows their students' birth year. And so you can see that in birth rates have really started to decline. This shows the year the kids enter kindergarten. And you can see where we are now, and these are births within the 97140 zip code. So you can see that birth rates are declining in our zip code and have been for some time. That's a trend that's continuing across the state. And in fact, there was an article in the Oregonian earlier, about a month ago or a month and a half ago, that predicted that the state K-12 population of school-age kids, not the kids in school, but the population of school-age kids will decline by at least 10% over the next decade. That's a pretty significant reduction in school-age population, and that's part of a broader trend that we expect to continue and something we'll have to pay close attention to. We may be somewhat insulated from that in Sherwood because of growth, but I think it's something we'll have to pay attention to. There is some broader sort of interesting stuff that goes on in our schools that I do want to point out, and this is part of the reason that we've had some struggles with our enrollment, or not struggled with our enrollment, but what this chart shows is going back to fall of 2019. In 2019, we had a senior class of 435 students that graduated, and we had an incoming kindergarten class of only 256 kids. So that's a loss of almost 200 students just in the difference in the size between your senior class and your incoming kindergarten class. And by the way, this trend has been in place for long. If you look back at our data, this has been in place for a long time. That was a pandemic year, so it's particularly noticeable. In the following year, we had 396 students, followed by a kindergarten class of 318, then 417 and 289, and 384 and 296. What's interesting is that in fall of 2021, for example, we had a senior class of 396 go out, an incoming class of 318 kindergartners come in, and our enrollment grew by 66 students. So, and this is also part of the trend for us that we see, is that our classes don't stay stagnant in size. So this data is a little bit skewed because of the pandemic, but if you look back over a longer period of time, you see the same trend. This kindergarten class was 332 students in the fall of 19. In first grade, they dropped to 298 during the pandemic when a lot of kids didn't attend public schools. Then it went from 308 to 317 and currently sits at 330. So back pretty much to where it was pre-pandemic. This class did the same kind of thing, started at 366, dropped to 348 during the pandemic, and 364, 382, 391. This class, a similar trend. This class is actually smaller. This is a trend we see a lot. We often, and have for years, lose a lot of students between sophomore and junior year in high school. That's just a trend we see. Other high schools see it too. A lot of it is students going to online school who just aren't working out in the high school model. And most of them end up coming back to us their senior year. We also lose a few kids to early graduation their senior year who are just finished early. But this is a trend that our demographers are predicting will continue to go going forward. So the smaller kindergarten classes, while concerning, there is good hope that things will grow over time. And it's also good to see a kindergarten class of 296, which is a fairly robust number for us. And so there's some good news in this report as well. So taking a look ahead. So interestingly enough, our demographer this year picked 4650. We thought we would get up into the 4700s by bringing in some more transfer students. The whole combination of things brought us to a lower number, but the demographer predicted 4650 and we're at 4644. So a pretty good projection by them. And this is their most recent projection for us going forward. Projecting increased enrollment largely from development. So we're hoping this is a one-year trend for us and we'll start to see things go back up. It's hard to know how things are going to shake out with building going on, but the demographer takes a pretty detailed look at, oh, I forgot one slide. I got, like Marlene, I got overly zealous. I'm excited for the development slide. But you can see these yield rates. So for every single family detached home, we get almost one full student on average. And for every for every 5 multifamily homes, I'll point at the one you're looking at, not the one I'm looking at. We get 1 student for every 5. Now these numbers have not been updated since 2018. And Jim and I checked in with the demographer a couple weeks ago, and he told us that they're waiting for 500 homes to be built so that they can get an updated number. They need 500 new homes to be built. They're not quite there yet, but they said the numbers are holding about the same based on the data that's been built. And they think we'll hit 500 new homes since 2018 soon. And then we'll have a more solid number. But the point is that these numbers seem to be holding solid according to our demographers. So that's good news because there's lots of building going on or potential building going on in Sherwood. These are all the planned developments. The 10-year forecast does not include Sherwood West over here. None of that's included, but it does include the Brookman concept plan and some others as well. In addition to what's on here, there is an affordable housing development going in over in Tualatin that is also within our borders, and that's not included in this. So our demographer is currently doing their due diligence, pounding the pavement, talking to developers in these areas, talking to permitting departments, finding out what kind of permits are being pulled. And in our next report from them, it will be updated and we'll have a better sense of where we stand. So not great news on the enrollment front this year. Hopefully some better news in years to come. But I do think the financial impact for this year will be totally muted, and hopefully in the following years, it's also quite manageable. What questions do you have? I went pretty fast through that. I apologize for. No questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all very good information to have. I don't think you went through it too fast. Good. Okay, well, welcome up Jim Rose to present to us the boundary adjustment for Brookman Road information.
Thank you, Chair Thorne, Superintendent Lyon, members of the board. I want to start with one piece of data for this presentation that I think is really important to understand, which is what we're talking about here tonight does not affect any current students that are in the elementary grades. That will make more sense here in a moment if you haven't had a chance to fully read through. But about a year and a half ago in one of our meetings with the exec team, we started talking about the Brookman Road concept plan. So that area along Brookman that's getting built out and really looking at it in relation to the bus routes, where those students attend school, and recognizing that there's a portion there that is very close to Archer Glen, but is currently undeveloped and those students, if there were students living there, would be bused off to the ridges. We kind of looked at the capacity numbers, and the capacity number we've shared with the board before is that Archer Glen can hold 475 students. That's their maximum capacity. Last year, we ended with 324 students, and this fall we started with 317. There's not a lot of area within the Archer Glen catchment area that's yet to be built out. It's a walking area. We actually only have one bus route that runs from the very top of the hill, and not a lot of areas that currently would add students unless we had a lot of people move into those homes. And so looking at how to balance our schools, we started looking at the Brookman Road area. And the area I'm specifically talking about is the east of Cedar Creek, and then bounded on the south side, the south side by Brookman Road and up to Lad Hill Road. And then on the north side, it's against the existing neighborhood that has Red Fern Drive in it, which is all a walkable area. The current designs that have been put into the city for kind of discussion and permitting would have walking paths throughout both of those neighborhoods to connect the two. And so we're, and actually one of those developments was approved by the city in August of 2022. And so that work is in process, and we expect there will be homes built before too long. The area has, based on those plans that have been turned in the city, we're looking at about 100 homes. And based on that data that Gary just shared with you, that would mean 50 kids to the elementary level grades, 100 kids overall, but about 50 to our elementary schools. One nice thing is if we make this move, we have the potential of eliminating one future bus route. So as those homes get built, they're going to need, as it currently sits, another bus to bus them to the ridges. If we were to make this change, that would prevent the need for an additional bus in the future. We also learned from the city that eventually the plan is for Brookman Road not to take a jog to the north and then back to the east to go to Lad Hill Road, but in fact will be basically straight from Highway 99 clear to Lad Hill Road. And that includes basically another 20 acres, 15 of which currently would go to the ridges and 5 would go to Hawksview. And so we are making the recommendation there because we expect another basically 112 to about 170 homes in that area. That at the time Brookman Road is straightened out, that those homes and that area become part of the Archer Glen catchment as well. And so this is here before you for first read, and we'll bring it back next month. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
One thought is that if there's a desire by board members to go drive it, we're getting pretty good at driving around, so we can do that. Jim could take us through and look at the boundaries that he's suggesting on the maps.
That's a great way to visualize it, because you can look at a map and it's like, sometimes it's just hard,
Yeah.
but driving it, you'll really understand the space we're talking about and kind of the reason why that connects so well to Archer Glen. And it would be a nice walkable neighborhood.
I think it'd be great to do a drive of it, and then also at the second read, bring the map back up, but bring it up on here so that we've driven it, and then we also are comparing it to what we're seeing here, and then so is the public.
I am available. I know people have different schedules. I can do it. I live in town, so I'm certainly welcome. I would welcome the opportunity to take you even in an evening or whatever too. So I'll make myself available.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
Okay, so we're going to move on to a few action items. Following that will be non-agenda related public comment. And we'll start with the first action item. I'll welcome up Mr. Gary Bennett to the podium regarding the appointment of budget committee members.
Thank you, Vice Chair Thorne. We have 2 open budget committee members, position 1 and position 4, due to the expiration of the terms of Nicole Brutowski and Ryan Dunlap. We solicited applications from September 20th through October 11th. We announced that at the last board meeting and then publicized that as well. We had 2 applications received. The applicants are Ryan Dunlap, who previously was on the budget committee, and Ryan Boatsman, who was a new applicant. And tonight we're asking you to consider appointing those 2 applicants to the budget committee.
I have a motion.
I make a motion to appoint Ryan Dunlap and Ryan Boatsman to Budget Committee positions number 1 and number 4, effective immediately for a 3-year term expiring on June 30th, 2026.
I second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, all right, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Oh, 4-0. Sorry. She's here. She's just up here. Okay, thank you. So Christine, you might want to correct that on my record. Thank you. Okay. All right, next action item is Dr. Lyon with rescinding a resolution to approve board member stipends.
Thank you. Following the passage of House Bill 2753 in 2023 and consultation with the Oregon School Boards Association, the Board of Directors passed a resolution last month on September 20th to provide stipends of up to $500 per month to board members per the new law. On September 21st, a day after our board meeting and a day after we passed said resolution, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, OGEC, issued a ruling on the potential for conflict of interest for boards taking actions related to HB 2753. And then on the 29th of September, OSBA revised their guidance to school boards, recommending school boards wait on a potential legislative solution to the OGEC ruling. So based on the changes in state agency guidance occurring after the September 2023 passage of a resolution implementing board member stipends, this evening, the school board of directors may take action to rescind the previously approved resolution. And just a note, no payments of board member stipends have been made to date. What we need to do is we need to wait until the next legislative session sorts out any potential conflicts of interest. So my recommendation tonight is to rescind the resolution previously approved on September 20th, 2023, as per guidance from OGEC and OSBA.
Thank you, Dr. Lyon. Do you have a motion?
I would like to move to rescind the board member stipend resolution previously approved on September 20th, 2023, as per updated guidance from OGEC and OSBA.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries 4-0. All right, on to our last action item of the evening. Dr. Lyon, once again, with the Sherwood West resolution.
Thank you. So the city of Sherwood is contemplating submitting a letter to the urban growth boundary, the board, to bring in to request to bring in the 1,000+ acres that comprises Sherwood West. And the city has been working on this with the citizens of Sherwood for 2 years. Jim Rose served as the district liaison. There is a beautiful document out there, the concept plan for Sherwood West. We've been working closely with the city of Sherwood to understand the various impacts on the school district side of the equation for Sherwood West and those 1,000 acres to come into the UGB and eventually be both commercial, industrial, and residential, and some businesses. And so when you think about it in pragmatic terms, all of that land around Sherwood High School, envisioning one day would be residential homes that would be the future growth for the community. So obviously it's a very controversial topic in one sense, because you want your growth to be very calibrated and very planned. And I think it's important to understand just submitting that letter doesn't imply anything other than the city of Sherwood is interested. And then from there, it goes through a very long and laborious process of being considered and decided upon. And then after it's decided upon, let's say it did come in, then there is the actual comprehensive planning piece of it, which is a multi-year piece. And then only then do you begin to see the growth. So anything we're talking about tonight is in reference to something that would get started essentially on the ground no sooner than 2028. And even that is fairly optimistic. So the question becomes, and we've been working with the city very closely on this, what is the school district's position regarding bringing or requesting Sherwood West to come in to the UGB? The answer is that, as you saw with our demographics this evening, you never want to be in a position where you are a declining enrollment school district. And why is that? Because funding is based on the number of students that you serve in your district. And all of those programs and all of those electives and all of those AP courses and all of our sports and fine arts programs, it all takes funding. And we have an educational program here that we're very proud of. We will not be able to sustain that program if we fall into a state of steady decline. And you saw the numbers coming out of Archer Glen, for instance. If we continue to decline and become a declining enrollment school district over time, because we are currently landlocked, and even with regards to the growth that's going to occur, that's basically infill. Someday there will be a question on the table of, do you have the funds to operate 4 elementary schools, or do you need to consolidate to 3? That gets really relevant when you talk about what the community voted in 2016 regarding the bond program. And that was all about preparing this district for the future growth that was going to happen. And so what you have is this wonderful situation right now. You have capacity at all 4 elementary schools, at the middle school, and at the high school. We are positioned for growth. And yet you're seeing in the enrollment report here, this static kind of unknown that occurred when the pandemic came along. So the question becomes, what's the district's position? We know in the concept planning, there are 2 sites for 2 future schools within Sherwood West. There's a site for a middle school and there's a site for an elementary school. Those are just blocks of land that aren't even really positioned yet as to where they would be. The district would still be responsible for purchasing the property to build those schools and then having the funds available to actually build the schools. But that would be in calibration with the increased enrollment that would provide the capacity and the necessity to do that. When families move here, it adds collectively to the population that's paying down your school taxes. And so community members who have been here will actually see a reduction in those taxes over time, but then you'll have your next bond program and such as it goes on. So it's not that you're reducing your taxes, but it is when you increase your population base, it does create a dynamic where more people are paying into that pool to support the school district. So hearing all of this, we thought it was important to think about bringing forth a resolution, which is simply putting our position in writing so that the city of Sherwood can know definitively what the school district's position on Sherwood West is. And the resolution that you have before you this evening is an endorsement to make application to bring in all of the Sherwood West concept plan and to request that the city of Sherwood, from our vantage point of student population growth and the future of our school district, that is something that is desirable. I will point out that is not the position this very school district took many years ago when we had the overcrowding and when we didn't have a place for those students. And that in part led to the 2016 bond, as I understand it, that created this capacity that we have now. So I am not going to read the resolution. You have it before you. It essentially recommends that the city of Sherwood does bring in the entire Sherwood West concept plan, make application to do so, and that we work hand in hand with the city in the future years to be prepared for that student growth that ultimately will allow our school district to continue to thrive and grow in student programming and student success. So my recommendation this evening is to adopt the resolution of support of the Sherwood West concept plan as presented.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we recommend adopt the resolution in support of the Sherwood West concept plan as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Can we ask a question? Is that, okay. I just want to be clear that this is more of a statement of support of the growth of Sherwood, the community and the city. It is very, very early in am I understanding that? It's very, very early in that planning, years ahead. And I think it was well noted that it's a balancing act of growth, preservation of property, et cetera. That's a controversy we had. How many knows that, of the whole Brookman Road for over a decade. So it's going to, I believe it's going to generate some controversy. But it does indicate, I think, to me, that if I'm understanding this right, that there is a cooperation between the school district and school board to cooperate with the city and see where this plan goes. Is that an accurate sum?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
any more discussion?
I'll just follow that up with, I personally have my reservations with any type of growth, but that's because I know and I've seen too much, right, in this town. So I have the, the disadvantage there. But I know that I do have a responsibility on behalf of this school board and the citizens of this community to help this school district thrive. And if that means growing in a steady pace and doing it responsibly, then I want to do that. And I don't want to see our enrollment go in a spiraling decline and put us in a more unfavorable position. So while I have my reservations, like I think everyone does about growth in general, I will support this tonight.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay, now we will move on to the non-agenda related public comment portion of tonight. Just as a reminder, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person or online submission. The purpose of public comment is for board members to hear public concerns, comments, and opinions. Board members will not respond to submitted public comment during this time. Public comment, actually, we've covered that part because we are past the agenda. So for non-agenda related public comment tonight, we have 8 online submissions and we have 4 in-person public comments. We will alternate between the two and we will start with in-person. So I would like to welcome Eric Campbell up to the podium.
Hello, board members. Thank you for taking the time here. And I would just like to take a moment to kind of piggyback on, I did not realize Adam was going to talk about this tonight, but I'd like to piggyback on some great things that are going on at the high school and acknowledge one of our former educators. So last month, the Technology Association of Oregon awarded Terrell Smith a Lifetime Achievement Award for his work as a computer science teacher in the state of Oregon and promoting computer science nationwide. So to put this a little bit in context, the Technology Associated of Oregon is about 400 regional tech corporations. And T was only the second educator to ever win the Lifetime Achievement Award for this. The other educator works at a high school about 2 or 3 miles from all of the Intel plants. So I think he had a little bit of a leg up. So the other thing about Oregon computer science education is that about 10 years ago, only 30% of high schools had a single coding class, 30%. And the other thing that has really changed is that coding 10 years ago used to be a career track. You would go in, you go to college, and that would be your career, right? And now, if you look 5 to 10 years down the road, coding is becoming a commodity. It's a commodity skill. So you've probably heard things about AI and machine learning and all that. And I think, for my opinion, what that really means is if you know how to code, you can learn how to do your job more productively, get more information, bring more value to your company. And it's not that it's going to be your full-time job, but everybody's going to be doing a little bit of it if they have that knowledge. I think one of the reasons why T got this was because he did have the premier high school computer science program in the state. So I've worked in the software industry for about 30 years. I've been on industry advisory boards at Washington State University and Oregon Tech. So I kind of know what I'm kind of looking for as far as hiring and everything. And when I went into T's class, that's what industry looked like. It was a group of students working on various things at various levels. They were all engaged and they were taking on some pretty tough topics. And he was providing kind of the guideposts to head them down that track. And the other piece is his involvement in the Oregon Computer Science Teachers Associations. So I mentioned 10 years ago, we only had 30% of high schools who had like one computer science class. Now we have almost 65%. And a lot of that is due to the Computer Science Teachers Association with their training, with their 3+ years, three times a year training, and also their community involvement. And he's been incredibly active in that.
That's time.
To help everybody how to code. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to an online submission now.
Courtney Constantine, Sherwood. Thank you to the board and school district for receiving and considering my public comments below. I'm submitting a public comment to express my deep concerns regarding recent discussions about the censorship of books within our school district. As a dedicated parent and a strong advocate for the importance of intellectual freedom and the broadening of young minds through literature, I firmly oppose any actions that might limit the diversity of thought and ideas available to our students. Our schools have a critical role in shaping our children's perspectives, and exposure to the wide range of ideas is essential to their growth and development as critical thinkers and empathetic individuals. While I acknowledge the importance of age-appropriate content and the need for parental involvement in their children's education, I believe that book censorship is not the answer. While I appreciate the concerns and engagement of parents in the education of their children, I must express my reservations about the idea of establishing a parent committee involved in a book selection process for our school district. The selection of educational materials, including books, required and non-required reading, should primarily be guided by the expertise of educators and administrators who understand the curriculum's objectives, selection criteria, and the needs of diverse students. While parental input is invaluable in understanding individual student preferences and concerns, it's important to avoid potentially limiting the educational experience of all students based on the preferences of a select group. An extensive and diverse curriculum is essential to provide a well-rounded education, and introducing a parent committee into book selection process may inadvertently lead to biases and limitations that restrict the academic opportunities for all students. Instead, I believe our school district should continue to engage with parents in the community through open communication, feedback mechanisms, and transparent policies to address concerns while preserving the integrity of our educational system. The current option given to parents to flag books they feel are inappropriate for their own child is a step in the right direction and continues to give freedom of choice to all students. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to a productive dialogue on this matter.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to call David Medina up to the podium.
When does the time start? When I start talking? Appreciate that. How's it going? My name is David Medina. First off, before I forget, I don't know why 30 minutes of exercise is excessive. The School of Public Health for Harvard says that kids need to get at least an hour of exercise a day. Not really sure. I'm pretty sure you're a doctor. You should know better than that. So we're talking about declining enrollment. I mean, it's almost like the 2 years of masking our kids and muzzling them and causing them a little bit of trauma, and their social development like just didn't happen. It was like poof, didn't happen. So that could be, maybe you guys should start listening to parents. I don't know. What do you think? I'm here for a specific, didn't plan on talking about that, but I'm here for a specific reason. The person just was mentioning the book ban. They don't think a book ban's good. Sure. Let's just bring in Playboys for the kids and start letting them read whatever, you know. If we're not going to ban, I mean, if it's going to be all about banning books, like let's not ban books. Yeah, there are books that need to be banned. In fact, there's one right now that should be banned that's in the library at the high school, and you guys all voted on it and voted to keep it in. And I'm sure the theme of my speech tonight is a little bit is cowardice, because I feel like there's a little bit of that in these school districts. That's why you're seeing declining enrollment, because school districts are so terrified of doing the right thing for kids. Because you guys know this book that you just voted on shouldn't be in the school, but you did it out of pure cowardice, kept it in there out of pure cowardice. I'm going to read actually from that book. My rights as a parent of a 15-year-old in the school district, my rights were already taken away from House Bill 2002. Good thing my kid knows better, because you know, she would be able to go get an abortion, change her gender, get gender assignment surgery, whatever, gender care, without my parental consent. My right as a father has been taken away from the state if my kid didn't know better. So thank God she knows better. But here's what you guys voted on. This is from the book. I forgot the title of it. I'm sure you guys know it. I was sexually mature. This is what our high schoolers are being subjected to right now. What I mean by sexually mature is that I knew about sex from 6 up. I used to kiss other guys in my neighborhood, make out with them, and perform oral sex on them. I liked it. I used to love oral. It's nice. And I touched their you-know-whats. We were really young, but that's what we did. I was making out with girls. I used to love making out with girls because everybody thought I was cool. Everybody was encouraging me. Look, Frank's not gay. He's making out with a girl. They wanted to learn how the hell I learned to kiss like that. I didn't know how I learned. It's pretty weird. You know, being in education like you guys, and I know there's a couple doctors up here. That doesn't mean like cowardice doesn't overshadow cowardice. Honestly, I don't care how smart you are, where you went to school. I mean, I've already seen what you said about physical education tonight, so I kind of know where you stand, and where you look at things. But that book should not be in our schools, and shame on you guys for voting that to stay in. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to an online comment submission.
Chrissy Harry, Sherwood, Oregon. Please approve the district's book selection proposal without any changes. Thank you to the new book selection committee for keeping the Beyond Magenta book at the high school. I don't believe in borrowing books from our children. They need to hear all the voices in their development.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to welcome Spencer Broderick to the podium.
Good evening, Board of Directors and Dr. Lyon and staff. First of all, I really appreciate all the hard work and time you guys put into your responsibilities. I'd also like to speak to the district book review process and the allowance of books that speak to sexually explicit content. Our district policy, from what I understand, states that sexually explicit content is not permitted in our schools. However, as has been mentioned, there's a book reported to have such kind of content in it and to be on our school shelves. I fully and honestly respect the ask for LGBTQ plus representation in our school literature because of that need. But aren't there books that speak to that representation and don't contain sexually explicit content? I don't know. I didn't do the research for that, but I would hope that there would be some books that we could utilize to provide that perspective, but not have sexually explicit content. And so when it comes to book reviews, the fact that we're allowing those books that are against school policy, it kind of destroys my trust in, what will be allowed in the future. And so when it comes to that, allowing parent involvement helps to provide a check and balance on ensuring that district compliant literature is part of our district, and not politically motivated, but is it compliant to our policies that we have already in place? If the committee can guarantee that on its own, in its current structure, that any accepted books are compliant with school policy, I'm fine with that. But I would ask at least for a public district statement on each book review that is performed for transparency, dictating that the committee agrees that the accepted books are compliant with school policies and foster a constructive learning environment for all. Something that leads to transparency so that we as parents can be confident that school literature complies with our district policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next online submission.
Madeline Robinette, Sherwood. Sherwood Schools, a great place for all kids. What happened to this logo and motto? It used to be on every SSD item and all over the website, but I can't find it anymore. Thankfully, the strategic plan still considers the #1 goal to develop a culture of inclusivity and cultural sustainability. But I'm concerned that we may be moving away from this goal. When I learned that Sherwood has been caught up in the trend of book challenges that has swept the country, I was worried. This is not an organic local movement, but a well-funded movement comprised of statewide and national activist groups. Under the guise of parent rights, these groups seek to restrict the rights of all parents by taking away reading materials they deem inappropriate. The tell is the language. Dehumanizing words like groomer are used against those they disagree with. These groups are anti-government, but can you see the irony? With their extreme vision of public education, they are creating their own nanny state run by themselves. I stand with our Sherwood School District professionals. They have no hidden agenda, and they know the student population better than any parent. Their book selection committee will ensure that books for all students are included in our libraries. Imagine seeing yourself in a book for the first time. What a wonderful experience. I hope the book challenge is not a harbinger of more to come. All parents have the option to restrict their own students' reading choices by simply informing the media coordinator at their school. They can also receive emails with the title of every book their student has checked out. It is not appropriate for a few parents to be the designated book police for families they know nothing of. Let's keep Sherwood Schools a great place for all kids, as it always has been.
You. Okay, I'll welcome Lindsay Broderick to the podium.
I was very pleased with Dr. Faith Lyon in a system for book reviews. Even libraries need to be cleaned out and updated from time to time. It's never been considered book banning to do so. However, today's tantrum throwing lemming behaviors, cleaning libraries, has been set aside for a fear of a Salem witch hunt. I'm grateful for a process that involves board and public. However, I feel like the process needs to be revised and include some reminders of policies that are in place. There will be more book submissions. I hope today's board and district staff will listen and have the courage to make adjustments the next time a book is brought up for review. First, the absolute secrecy of this group is ridiculous. With the amount of public outcry from both sides of the argument, I expect better of you all. Transparency will solve a lot of problems. Maybe not the names of committee members, although personally I think it's a little chicken of you all, but a statement from district would do a big step of faith and confidence in our community. Sherwood is a good place with good people. Give us a chance. Second, we have policies in place regarding sexual activity, misconduct, and exposure. These policies are legally binding and carry full weight of the law. Violation of these policies in particular is a sensitive subject with our district attorney, Kevin Barton, as well as should be. Without transparency and given the presumed passing of the book Beyond Magenta that is still in our library, my concerns of this policy being violated are valid. Finally, I would be curious to know the opinion of our board regarding pornography in general, but specifically in our schools, because books like Beyond Magenta are in fact pornography. The facts are stated by the website Fighting the New Drug. While many LGBTQ youth turn to porn to learn more about their own sexuality, porn often fetishizes and misrepresents, exploits LGBTQ people in damaging ways. Reports show that those who sexually abuse children often show their victims porn to groom them or normalize sexual abuse. The Internet Watch Foundation recently reported that during 2020, approximately 44% of child sexual abuse material reported to the IWF involved self-generated material. It's a 16% increase from the previous year. But there's more, but for now, consider this. Pornography is a drug. It triggers dopamine and alters the prefrontal cortex. It's condition known as hypofrontality. By supporting books like Beyond Magenta, even in the alleged right of the First Amendment, which does not protect porn in the case of minors, you are committing illegal acts against the district policy, contributing to societal problems and destroying families and homes. A Sherwood youth on my street was arrested in a sting operation 2 years ago for selling child porn. Your vote confirms his illegal acts and incarceration, and I hope you'll make better choices in the future.
Thank you. Next online submission, please.
Alyssa Khan, Sherwood. District leadership. Just recently, the citizens of Sherwood passed a levy that saved a number of teachers' jobs. Imagine how we feel when we see these same teachers using polarizing and racist rhetoric in their classrooms. One recent example is a teacher describing a white middle-class author to his class as white privilege. Is this teacher or any teacher aware of the racist undertones that statement and how using a phrase like that may make the students feel? Because last I checked, many students in that teacher's class are white middle-class students. I wonder how they feel being referred to in this way. In what way does the author's relevance or accomplishments have anything to do with his race? Are you aware that teachers using this phrase polarize not only their own students, but also the very citizens of this city that just passed a levy, costing them hundreds of dollars a year that very well could have saved this teacher's job? The district leadership has continually made a promise to this community that Sherwood is a place for all students, that parents matter, that students matter. You made promises to listen to parents. How does allowing teachers to speak this way honor the majority of the parents and students in this city? The answer is it doesn't. Sherwood district leaders, I implore you, please be the leaders that rise above this woke racist garbage and encourage the teachers of the district to stop with the ideologies, race wars, and gender wars, just to teach from a neutral position and leave their personal politics and beliefs at the door. We're not paying these teachers to make our kids feel guilty about their skin color, and we are not paying these teachers to have them question their gender and sexuality. Enough is enough. Be leaders and do the right thing.
Okay, so we're only in online public comments, so next one.
Elaine Gordon, Sherwood. Never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought I would live in a time where book banning would not only be openly embraced, but enthusiastically so in the United States. Never mind a real possibility in my very own town. As a parent, I understand moderating and reviewing the content our children view. I also understand that as a parent, what may be okay for my kid may not be okay for yours, and vice versa. And never would I ever impose my beliefs onto anyone else. I would never insist if something felt wrong to me that it must be wrong for others. The Sherwood School District has put in place many fail-safe measures regarding reading content for our children. Parent can put a stop on a book from being checked out. The district is now sending us a list of books our child has checked out. If a teacher assigns a book you personally disagree with, you can request an alternative assignment. These policies and the guidelines being recommended by the Sherwood School staff are more than accommodating, and to allow parents to object on a book district-wide will only be detrimental to our schools and children. Your religious beliefs, your political beliefs, your views on social justice are just that, yours. They're not mine, they're not my children's, and they have no business dictating what books should and should not be allowed. As a mother of a child with special needs, inclusivity and acceptance means everything. Everyone deserves to be represented and belong. I ask the board to approve the district's book selection proposal. Sincerely, a Sherwood mother of two.
Michael Jones, Sherwood. As many of you are aware, there was a recent challenge to the book titled Beyond Magenta. This book, although well-intentioned, does contain what legally could be considered child pornography when you have a character discussing sexual acts between two children of age 6. Oregon Law 167-080, labeled as displaying obscene materials to minors, explains a person commits the crime of displaying obscene materials to minors if the person knowingly or recklessly permits a minor who is not accompanied by the parent or lawful guardian of the minor to enter or remain on the premises, if in fact that part of the premises where the minor is so permitted to be there is visibly displayed. That covers the book being made available to students in our library where, as we know, the book is not present, the parent is not present with them. Section B of this law continues. Any book, magazine, paperback, pamphlet, or other written or printed material, however reproduced, that reveals a person or portion of the human body that depicts nudity, sexual conduct, sexual excitement, or sadomasochistic abuse, as this book not only depicts sex acts, but also depicts sex acts among minors, we can clearly come to the conclusion that this book is in direct violation of that law. While the law does allow for an educational context in certain circumstances, good luck indicating that we want every person to feel good, or as your defense if a parent were to decide to file charges, especially when your defense is inclusivity, and there are a plethora of books that would accomplish this that don't contain this graphic content. This is punishable by up to a $10,000 fine per instance. The majority of the parents would be appalled to know that this material is in our schools. I know that there are groups in Sherwood that are promoting this kind of material to be available to children, even hiding it from their parents. The U.S. Supreme Court has found multiple times that the schools are responsible to the parents who elected them and not the unelected ODE. It would really suck to have to spend a lot of money defending this behavior in court when we are struggling to keep the teachers employed without the recent levy. I would recommend a parent panel that actually reads the books and then rates them similar to a movie rating system. The school needs to get parents' permission to share a PG-13 movie in their class for their student to watch. Yet that same student can go check out a book in the library that depicts blowjobs by a 6-year-old. Please ask yourself, why is it wrong in a movie, but okay in a book? Would school allow Playboy or Hustler magazines in the library? Why not? Because this book.
That's time.
There are two more. First one, Sharon Allen, Provo, Utah. We lived in Sherwood from about 2002 to 2021. Please don't allow books in schools that are sexually explicit. I support Christo 100%. That's the end of the comment. The next one is from Rebecca Radinsky, Sherwood, Oregon. Two members of the school board. I'm writing as a parent of an elementary school child in the Sherwood School District. I would like the school board to approve the district's book selection proposal, which includes using professional reviews such as Tidal Wave Follett and the school library journal as a baseline for determining age appropriateness of materials. If the parent is interested in restricting their child's reading materials, they may do so in their own home. I am vehemently against parents having the ability to ban books for children who are not their own. For some children who are othered in society, reading books about people who are similar to them can be a great source of support and can be a lifeline, literally, no pun intended. To reiterate, no parent should be able to ban a book for another child other than their own. Professional librarians and media specialists should be the only ones determining materials appropriate for district libraries and book fairs. Sincerely, Rebecca.
That concludes our non-agenda related public comment for the evening. The next meeting of the board will be held on November 15th, 2023. There will be a joint meeting of the SSC Board of Directors and the Sherwood City Council on November 8th, 2023. Thank you all for coming. And thank you to those that are listening online. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.